Hello gorgeous friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Rachel and welcome to today's video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about 24 books that I want to read in the year 2024. This is going to be my third time doing this video. I did this first in 2022, right when I started my YouTube channel in January. I did 22 books I want to read in 2022. Then last December, I did 23 books I want to read in 2023. And now we are here for the third year doing this and I am very excited. So what makes this video a little bit different from like my most anticipated reads of the new year is I pulled 24 books from my physical TBR. So these are all books that I physically own and that I just have really high hopes for. I am hoping that I will give 4 and 5 stars to all of these, and hopefully at the end of the year we can review these and see if I was right. But I'm really excited to talk about these books today, and also I would love to hear from you all. If you have read these books, what did you think of them? Are there books that you think I should prioritize over others? And I think it's just really fun to kind of go through what I'm looking forward to reading in the new year and sharing that with you all. I did just want to say I'm going to go through these, not like super quick, but I'm not going to go really in depth with the synopsis. I mean, I always say that, but then I usually end up going in too deep with what these books are about, but I'm not going to do that. I'm kind of just going to do bullet points, just kind of let you know why I'm excited to pick this book up and why it made it on to this list. So let's get straight into it. These are 24 books that I want to read in 2024. All right, number 1, starting out very strong, I want to read The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I want to start the Stormlight Archives in 2024. I started my Brandon Sanderson journey in 2023. I have read Warbreaker, I have read The Final Empire, The Well of Ascension. I do still need to read The Hero of Ages. I don't know if that's going to happen before the end of this year, but I will definitely read that before I get to this. So I am putting this on my 2024 TBR as kind of like a goal. I want to finish The Hero of Ages and then start the Stormlight Archives. If I can read more than just The Way of Kings in 2024, I would love to, because I've just heard the Stormlight Archives is so fantastic and I'm really excited to get to it. And yeah, I'm just really excited about this book. This has kind of been my goal ever since I started reading Brandon Sanderson's books, is to get to The Way of Kings. So I do hope that I love this. The next book on my 2024 TBR is Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. I have genuinely enjoyed every single Olivia Blake book that I have read. I love Alone with You in the Ether. I loved the Atlas 6. I want to read more from her, and the Masters of Death just really caught my eye. I really like Olivia Blake's pretentious writing. I know there's some people who don't, some people who do, but I just find it really engaging, really fun. I just love the style of her writing. I've also just seen like quotes from this book that look really beautiful. So definitely one of those like Bookstagram influenced me to pick up, but I've just had so much success with her other books that I do think I'm going to enjoy this. All right, next up is Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. Obviously, I want to continue on with the Red Rising saga. I finished the original trilogy this year, and it was so much fun to be introduced to Pierce Brown's writing and the whole Red Rising saga, and I'm really excited to see how the story continues. I have not given a Pierce Brown book 5 stars yet. They have all been very strong 4 stars, but I'm hoping with reading Iron Gold and then Dark Age and Lightbringer that I will hopefully find a 5 star somewhere in there. So this kind of represents the entire Red Rising saga that I hope to get to in 2024. So another series that I definitely want to continue in 2024, so I'm putting the next book in the series on my TBR, is Blood Solace by Vella Roth. Blood Mercy is a fantastic epic fantasy romance. I really enjoyed it, and I am so excited to see where this series goes. I have heard that the plotting and planning all the way from book 1 to the latest book that is out has been really impressive, and I just really love these characters. It is a vampire-esque fantasy romance, and I think it has a really unique relationship with a cinnamon roll hero and kind of a stronger and feistier female main character. So I'm really excited to continue on with the series and see what happens next for these characters. The next book on my 2024 TBR is The Silvered Serpents by Roshani Chokshi. So I read The Gilded Wolves back in like 2021, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I am gonna have to reread The Gilded Wolves before I pick up The Silvered Serpents, but The Silvered Serpents is the next like book in the series that I need to read, so I'm putting this on here. But I really loved The Gilded Wolves. I gave it 4 stars. It does have similar Six of Crows vibes, but I think that the setting and the characters are different enough that I personally really enjoyed it, and I felt that there was a pretty clear distinction between those 2 series, and I am excited to see where things go in this book. I do remember that the ending of The Gilded Wolves was very wild, not only with the plot, but also with kind of the character dynamics, so I'm very excited to pick this series back up, and who knows, hopefully I can finish it in 2024. All right, the next book on my 2024 TBR is Reign of Shadows and Endings by Melissa K. Rorick. So this is the author who wrote the Lady of Darkness series, which is a pretty popular fantasy romance series. I did try to read that series. I read Lady of Darkness, and then I DNF'd the second book, Lady of Ashes. This is a new series by this author though. It is a dark fantasy romance. It sounds really cool. I want to give it a shot. And also, just like sidebar, the Lady of Darkness series haunts me. I'm considering giving that series another chance. I don't know why, but I kid you not, I think about that series all the time and I don't know why. I like cannot get it out of my system. I contemplate picking up Lady of Ashes all the time, giving it another shot. I also contemplate just rereading Lady of Darkness and giving it another chance. For some reason, I just cannot let that series go, and I wonder, like, did I make a mistake by DNFing the series? Should I give it another chance? I don't know. So, I mean, if anyone has any Lady of Darkness feedback that you'd like to give me, if you enjoyed it, if you think I should give it a shot, I don't know. But for some reason, I kid you not, I think about the Lady of Darkness series on a weekly basis, and I DNF'd that series in the summertime. So I don't know what's wrong with me, but whether I decide to reread the Lady of Darkness series, I'm gonna give her new series a shot just because I think this sounds really, really cool. I'm excited by the storyline, and I just want to give this author another shot. So hopefully this ends up being a hit. All right, next up is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I do have a couple of classics on this list, mostly fantasy and fantasy romance, but I did throw a couple in because I do genuinely enjoy reading classics, and there's just a few that I'm like, these are kind of lifetime bucket list books that I want to read these before I die type of thing. And Jane Eyre is a book that I just see a lot of praise for, and anytime I've mentioned it in videos, I usually get a lot of comments about like, oh, that's one of my all-time favorite books, you should absolutely read it. I am excited. I do not know a whole lot about the story, but I think it is a pretty like melancholy vibe, which I love. So I hopefully will read this in 2024 and really hope that I like it as much as so many of you do. Next up is The Ever King by L.J. Andrews. This is one of those fantasy romances that is bopping around Bookstagram right now, and I see it on a lot of recommendations for like, if you've read all of SJM, you know, what's another fantasy romance series to pick up? And usually I've read most of the books on those types of lists, but this book is now popping up on those and it sounds good. So I'm hopeful that I will love this. I just love KU fantasy romance so much, and I definitely, as I said in my like talking about 2024 reading goals, I want to focus on finding new KU fantasy romance authors, finding some new series, and just kind of making that a focus for the new year. So that is definitely why I want to read this book. I've heard great things and I hope I like it as much as everyone else seems to. The next book on my 2024 TBR is Vows and Ruin by Helen Shorer. So this is the second book in the Legends of Thesmar series, the first book being Blood and Steel. I read that a few months ago and I gave it a 3.5-star rating. I liked it. I think it was like a fine start to the series, but I am hoping that as the series goes on, the books are just gonna get better and better. That is what I have heard. And I still like the series. I still want to see what happens. I think something that I want to do in 2024 is that even if I start a fantasy series and like the first book in the series is maybe a 3-star, I don't want to give up on the series. I tend to do that. I tend to just like have no patience and go, okay, on to the next one. But I think that it would definitely benefit me to continue on with the series and see if things get better. Obviously, if I just keep reading a series and the books are just not good, I'm gonna DNF it. But I think sometimes I am quick to just sort of write off a series just because the first book wasn't like a 5-star. And you know, in my experience, especially with like my all-time favorite series, the early books are usually not my favorite. So I am going to just be more open and more optimistic. I am already optimistic, but we're turning up the optimism to like 78 in 2024. And I don't know, I just want to give series more of a shot. I think that there's definitely a lot of benefit to continuing on with the series and seeing a story through, and not every single series has to start out with a 5-star for me to continue it. All that to be said, I've heard good things about this book. I want to continue on with the series. I will say, before I get to this one, I do need to read Slaying the Shadow Prince. This is, I think it's like a prequel standalone, but it does exist in the Legends of Thesmar world, and I've been told that you should read this in between Blood and Steel and Vows and Ruin. So, but I'm excited to read this, and I really hope that I like it a little bit more than the first book in the series. Another book that follows that exact same topic that I just discussed is Throne of Broken Gods by Amber V. Nicole. I read the first book, the Book of Azrael, and I think I gave it, once again, like a 3.5-star. It wasn't incredible, but I enjoyed myself. There's a lot of really heavy world building, and so I think that it just lost me a few times, but the ratings for this book are so good, and people just like gush about this series, and I want to be a part of that group. So I'm gonna give this second book a shot. I'm excited to see where things go. You know, even though I don't think the first book in the series is like my perfect fan row, I do think that there is a lot of potential and a lot of promise there, and I'm excited to see these characters through whatever happens in Throne of Broken Gods. The next book that I want to read in 2024 is Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I'm really excited to read this. I feel like this is such an iconic book, and I cannot believe I haven't picked it up yet, but I really think that I'm gonna like it. I am excited by the sapphic love story. I am excited by the dragons. I have heard that the dragons are not super present in the story, so I'm kind of preparing myself for that. I do think that is one of the common complaints about this book, is that the dragons are not as involved as people would hope, but I'm still excited. I still want to give this book a shot because I feel like so many people have read this, so many fantasy lovers enjoy it, and I hope that I will enjoy it as well. The next book is A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. I saw so many people reading this book in like October and November, and I heard the writing is absolutely beautiful and that it's a really great YA dark academia. I wanted to fit it in before the end of the year, but it's just not gonna happen. Boston, so I'm thinking this will definitely be on some type of fall TBR. I want to get into this author's writing as well. She is also right now working on a Lady Macbeth inspired book, which I think sounds so cool. So I want to get into her writing and see if I enjoy it, and then hopefully pick up whatever she comes out with next. The next book on my 2024 TBR is Count Your Lucky Stars by Alexandria Bellafleur. This is a sapphic romance. It is the second book in the Written in the Stars series, which is a 5-star romance for me. I loved that book. This is also set in Seattle, which is very fun. I love Alexandria Bellafleur. I will pick up anything that she writes. I think that she writes in a very like rom-com way, which is just something that really works for me, and I just really love sapphic romance. I just want to read more of that in the new year, and Alexandria Bellafleur does it very, very well, and I enjoy the way she writes spice and just everything. She really works for me, so she's an author that I just want to get to her entire backlist and pick up whatever she puts out in 2024 as well. Next up, we have The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. This is a standalone adult fantasy, which I feel like is such a rare thing in the fantasy world, so I want to pick it up. I love the idea of reading a just full, complete fantasy novel and that being it. I mean, I say that, but I am such a series girl. Like, I do love starting a super long and crazy series, but I don't read like any fantasy standalones, so I think that this will be a nice change of pace. My friend Sahar over at Literary Sahar, she absolutely loves this book and was singing its praises, so that's why I picked it up, and I'm excited to read it. The next book on my list is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. So this is a book that I saw so many people talking about, but I didn't really know if it was for me, but the more that I looked into it, the more interested I got, and once again, the reviews of this book are just like glowing. I feel like everyone really enjoys this book, so I want to give it a shot. It is a contemporary romance, but I do think there is a little bit of like magical realism or like otherworldliness that is involved in this book, where two characters are living in the same apartment but like at different times, but they are able to communicate, and I think they fall in love. That is such a unique storyline, and I've never read anything like that, so I do want to give it a shot. And just because I see so many glowing reviews about it, I want to be in on the hype and see what it's all about. The next book on my 2024 TBR, she is a TBR veteran, and I'm really sad that I did not read this book in 2023, but it just didn't happen. So I am prioritizing this book in 2024. I promise I'm gonna read it, more promising to myself, but also I've had so many people asking me about this book, and yeah, I just haven't picked it up yet. But that is City of Ruin by Charissa Weeks. The Witch Collector is the first book in the series, which I loved. I gave it 4 stars. It is a great wintry fantasy romance. However, I have heard that this book is incredible and that this is like the book that gets you hooked on the series. So many people say The Witch Collector is good, but City of Ruin will blow your mind, and I am ready for that. I can't even guess what that means, like thinking about the plot and what could possibly happen. I have no idea what that means, but I'm really excited to get back into this world, get back into this series, and I'm so hopeful that I love this book as much as I see so many other people do. Next up is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. I want to enter my John Gwynne era in 2024. I have a couple books by him, and I think he's a very beloved fantasy author. I picked this one in particular because the cover is stunning and there's dragons, so that's automatically gonna get me interested. But it's also a multi-POV fantasy, and I think that all of the POVs sound really interesting, and I just like that when there's, you know, lots of different POVs and then they all kind of tie up at the end. It is a classic fantasy storytelling type that I really love, so I do hope that I enjoy this book, and I'm excited to see what John Gwynne is all about. Next up is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I have to read this in 2024. I've not read the Hunger Games series. I have seen the first movie, but I haven't seen the second and third. I don't know how this story ends. I don't know how things go, and I just need to read it. I want to know what all the hype's about. I want to watch the other movies, and I just heard that the writing is really great, even though this is obviously a story for young adults or like children. I've heard that even as an adult, the writing really does stand up, so I am excited to read this. I don't know, I think it'd be kind of fun to just like binge the series and vlog it and just do like a full spoilery Hunger Games vlog, because I'm constantly playing catch up with all of these series that I missed when I was younger, the Hunger Games namely being one of the most popular, and I'm excited to just finally read it and become a Hunger Games stan. Speaking of catching up on books that I missed out on, like middle school times, I am putting The City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare on my 2024 TBR. I'm putting this book on this TBR because I just finished City of Fallen Angels, which is the book before this. I think in years past, I've put like the entire Shadowhunters Chronicles on my TBR, which is insane because I think I have like 10 or 11 books still to go until I'm caught up. So to be a little bit more realistic, to be a little less delusional, I am just putting the next book in the series on my 2024 TBR. TBR. Obviously, I hope that I will read more of her books. I have like kind of a more silent goal to read all of her books in this next year, but I'm not gonna like say that I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna try to, but we'll see. But I'm really enjoying the Mortal Instruments series. After reading City of Fallen Angels, I'm like fully in it. I think it is the best book in the series that I've read thus far, and I'm excited to see what happens next. So I want to get caught up on the Mortal Instruments, and then we'll see where things go. Next up is a book that I am 99% sure was on my 23 books to read in 2023. And if not that TBR, I put it on like my mid-year book freakout tag or something. Needless to say, I have said that I'm going to read this book many times, and I have not, and that is The Name of the Wind. I've heard that this is fantastic. It follows the most notorious wizard in the world, and I just think that sounds really cool. I have this beautiful edition gifted to me by Kara, and it's time. I need to do it. So I'm gonna do it in 2024, and I really hope that I can look back on 2024 and be like, I read Name of the Wind. It was fantastic. I gave it 5 stars. It got off the TBR finally. So fingers crossed this actually happens. All right, so we have one more classic on my 2024 TBR, and that is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I'm really looking forward to this. I have heard a lot of people say that this is like a classic, literally classic enemies to lovers story, and I'm just looking forward to the what I assume is beautiful prose and interesting characters. I've heard them referenced obviously throughout like pop culture, and I just want to see what this book is all about. So I do hope I like this. I've seen like a lot of mixed opinions about this book, so I'll be curious to see where I fall, but I'm still looking forward to it. Next up is Trial of the Sun Queen by Nisha J. Tooley. So this is, from what I understand, adult fantasy romance with a little bit of the Hunger Games, a little bit of The Bachelor, I think, kind of all mixed in. I don't know, it sounds really fun. I see a lot of people give this book very high praise. It seems like one of those books that you go into and you're like, I'm gonna have a lot of fun with this. I'm just gonna be along for the ride. And I think that sometimes that is just what I need. So I do want to read the series. I've seen a lot of people who I have very similar tastes to say that they really enjoyed this book. So I'm hopeful that I will too. All right, so the final book, the 24th book on my 2024 TBR is a book that I tried reading in like 2021 and I DNF'd it after like 100 pages, but I want to give it another shot because I think that I have changed as a reader. I think that I understand this genre a lot better, and this is kind of a classic, so I think I need to read it, and that is The Deal by Elle Kennedy. So as I said, in 2021, that is when I tried to read this. At the time that I picked this up, I want to say that I had maybe read 1 or 2 romances like in my life, and I think the idea of a hockey romance was just such a new concept to me, and I didn't really like the writing, to be honest with you. However, what I have heard from everyone who does love this series is that, like, yeah, the writing is a little bit silly. Things get a little goofy, but I think having read so many romances and having read from so many different authors and kind of understanding different writing styles that happen within different subgenres, I want to give it another shot. This is like a legendary book, right? It is the hockey romance book, and I just want to give it another shot and see what I think. I also really want to read The Graham Effect, which is the like 2nd generation series that Elle Kennedy is starting. The Graham Effect does follow the child of the couple in The Deal, so I need to read this first before I read The Graham Effect. I don't know, I'm gonna give the Off-Campus series another try in 2024. I'm actually like kind of making it a point to pick up a few books that I DNF'd in 2024, but I'm not gonna say anything about that until that video comes out. But I am looking forward to this, and I don't know, I think I'm gonna go in with different expectations and just have fun with it, meet this book where it's at, and I hope that I fall in love with it. All right, besties, so that is my 2024 TBR. Let me know, what books do you think are amazing? What books do you think I have a good chance of giving 5 stars? I just want to know. I want to hear from you guys. Give me some feedback on what you think I have a good chance of liking, what books I should prioritize. And I'd also love to hear what is on your 2024 TBR. Give me a few books. Give me like 3 books that you're like, ooh, I really need to read these books in 2024. They're a priority for me. Obviously, my TBR for 2024 is much longer than 24 books, but these are books that really stand out to me on my shelves that I really want to read. And hopefully at the end of 2024, I will have a rating for all of them. So if you made it to this point in the video and you wanted to let me know, go ahead and leave some type of like celebration emoji for the new year, and please make sure that you're following me on Instagram and Goodreads. They are always linked down below. I really appreciate that you watched this video. I hope that you're having a fantastic day. I love you all so much, and I will catch you guys in the next one.